Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you a card that I created kind of for Halloween, and I'll show you how it's done. So I'm just going to use a 4¼ by 5½ inch piece of white cardstock. This is accent opaque, and I'm going to grab my stamps, the little back parts off of them to kind of decide on placement of where I'm going to put everything. And that's going to be my moon. That's just my mask. I'm going to have that there, and this is just kind of rough placement, so I can decide how to place my colors when I do my background. So kind of happy with how that's going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and peel off my mask here. Sometimes I fight with these things, but you can just bend the little corner down, it'll pick off. I'm just going to peel off my mask, and I'm going to lay it down onto my paper. I'm going to start grabbing some colors here. I'm going to use various tools to blend in the colors. I'm going to start with Wilted Violet, and I'm going to use my dome foam blender, and I'm going to just start in lightly. So I tap it into the ink, and then I tap it off onto my little mat. And then I'm going to go in with some, let's go in with some Salty Ocean. I want kind of some brilliance to my sky here. And I start in at the mask and then go outwards. So going kind of darker. And I notice that I'm getting these weird scratches, and what I'm finding here is my dome foam blender is damaged, and so I have to try and avoid that area while I'm scraping the ink on or smooshing it on or whatever. And I'm going to use my finger blender brush with this Seedless Preserves, and just go here and there, kind of dark here in some places, because it is, you know, meant to represent kind of an evening sky. And then I'm just kind of going around and around to form a tiny outline around my moon. And what I do is I want to go in with some Salvaged Patina. And I'm going to use a finger blender for that as well. And I'm just going to put it here and there. No real actual plan, just laying color down. It's one thing about skies is you can do just about whatever you want with a sky. So I'm going to go in just a little heavier towards the bottom with the Salvaged Patina. And this is, by the way, a magical sky, so it doesn't have to make sense. I'm going to go in with the dried marigold. Let me just blend a little bit more Salvaged Patina down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to bring in our sunlight. So yeah, it's the moon and sun, I guess. Yeah, okay, so anyways, just kind of forming a line there with the dried marigold. And then I'm going to grab the Fossilized Amber and bring that yellow down. And then I'm going to just bring in a couple of little hints of the Seedless Preserve again, and then go over top of that with the Fossilized Amber. Just kind of blend it out, make it appear like a sky, and then bring some of that Fossilized Amber up into the Salvaged Patina. And then at the bottom, I'm just going to go in with some Vintage Photo with a large brush, and just lightly, because I'm going to be forming more ground there later. So anyway, these are all Oxide inks, by the way. I'm just going to wipe off my little mat here and pick up my mask. And I'll just place my mask back on its little backer here. And now I'm going to look at my placement again, see if it's the way I want it. So far, so good. This is why I left the moon kind of plain instead of putting, you know, clouds in the moon and stuff like that, because I want that little magical burst to be, you know, almost a centerpiece. So I'm going to lay my witch down, and I will tell you these stamps in the description box. This is a brand new one from Fairy Hug Stamp. And I hadn't conditioned this stamp, so I'm just going to wipe it with some water. Actually, I did condition it, and what I found was I could not get it to lay down without bubbles. So what I'm doing is I'm putting water on it and just lifting it and pushing it back down, trying to avoid bubbles in the stamp. But it seems like no matter what I do, I cannot get that thing to not have bubbles in it. So I'll just work with what I have. So I'm going to go in with the Versafine Clair and Nocturn and lay that ink down on my little witch, Raven I think her name is, and press down. And you can see I got basically nothing out of that. So I'm going to go in again and put a little bit more pressure towards that dress part. I find I get a lot of problems with silhouette type stamps, and it may be I need to re-ink my ink pad again, but I just recently re-inked it, so I'm not sure why I would need to re-ink it again. We're getting there. Just keep pushing at it. I'll keep going back and forth until I get the ink down. I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to lose the detail of the dress and stuff. Just that one spot right there does not want to go. So I'm going to clean this off, and I'm going to come in and try and see if I can get that bubble out of there. And go back in again. Cross my fingers. And hope that ink sinks in there. I'll clean up my stamp again. And then I'm going to pull Pippin, my little rabbit, and this is a Lavina stamp. And he's kind of her what do you call it, familiar? So he's, you know, looking at the same thing with her. And he's an easy stamp. Just a little bit one time, good to go. You can see he's a favorite of mine because he's stained. I'm going to pull that out of the stamping platform, and I want to dry it pretty well. And once it's dry, I'm going to place my little burst here. And I realize that I've got the transparency upside down. Okay, there we go. Because I want it to look like it's coming from her hand. So I'll lay my stamp down on the transparency, and then I'll use my anti-static powder bag. I'm going to use Versarmark on it, and I'm going to stamp it twice. Not pressing too hard. I don't want to lose the detail in the little stars. But making sure that I've got plenty of ink on it so that it will grab the embossing powder. I've got my embossing gun heating in the background there. I'm going to just grab this gold embossing powder from Ranger. And I'm going to dump it on. And I'm trying not to get any down towards the bottom part, because sometimes that ink notoriously acts like it's dry and it's actually not. So it's okay if I get a little extra gold speckles in the burst itself, but I don't want them on my black. So I'm going to go ahead and just heat emboss this gold little embellishment down. Check it closely, make sure it's fully covered, and make sure I don't have any loose embossing powder on there. And I'm happy with that. So what I want to do now is I want to create kind of a surface for Raven and Pippin to be sitting on. And so I'm going to go in with the Versafine Clair and Acorn and my little Lavina mask and kind of decide on placement where that needs to go. Then I'll grab my brush, tap it in, and tap it off a little and just lightly stroke down. A little heavier to the left than on the right, but I want to get that color down. And there I've got them standing on a good surface. So now I want to add some foliage and things. So, you know, I decided I want to color that moon a little bit. So I'm going to go in just with my antique linen after I clean off my mat to make sure I don't pick up any other colors. And just swirl around. Doesn't matter if it goes on, you know, on the outside edges or whatever. I'm just going to swirl that ink in there. One of these days I'm going to refill this ink. I swear I will. I know I have a refill for it. Just getting that color down so it's got a tiny bit of color to it. I didn't want to add like this part of this moon mask or anything because, you know, it's going to take away from my design. So I'm going to go in with some leaves that I have, and these are from Fairy Hugs. And I'm just going to decide on placement, and I'm going to use that same Acorn ink for a few of them. And I don't stamp the whole thing down, just parts of it. Just trying to kind of fill in the picture. And I'm going to put those, you know, almost halfway up the page. And then I'm going to use that same stamp, and I'm going to go in with the Pinecone color, which is a darker brown. And just to kind of give the little bit of appearance of depth there. Okay, I'm happy with that. Clean off my mess. Now I want to add something, some other foliage, so I'm going to go in with this floral vine stamp, also from Fairy Hug Stamps. And I am going to go in with some shady, no, that's green something, I don't know, I can't see it. some green. And I'll list them all in description box, but I'm doing a voiceover now, so remembering is something. Now I know this one's Rainforest. So same principle, go in with the lighter one, then go in with the darker one. And just lay some little stuff on the ground. And I'm happy with that. And what I want though is I want something on the top too. But I think I don't want to use the vines. I think I want to incorporate this tree somehow. And so what I decide to do after looking at it is, and that's what I do, I take the transparency and lay it around. First I'm thinking I'm just gonna stamp the tree in there somewhere, but it just, there's a lack of balance there I don't like. So, you know, I don't want the tree just floating in midair. But I do like it like this, like a bramble. So that's why we're going with that. And I'm also going to use two colors for that. I'm going to lay this on a stamping platform or an acrylic block thingy. And I'm going to start in with the Versafine Clair and Monarch. And I'm just going to start laying down these brambles. And again, I go, you know, about 2 or a third of the page down with it. And all the way across the top, and just moving the stamp so that it doesn't look the same every time I stamp it down. And I'm going to go ahead and just let those two meet on that side. And now I'm going to go in with the Twilight. Same thing, just kind of got to go over the top of those, kind of even things out a bit, get it a little bit down closer to the moon. I don't want it going over the moon. I don't want any disruption with my moon here. But I do want to thicken these up. And I already know that I'm going to be trimming the page, so I'm not too worried about the right-hand side. And I'm going to get my paper trimmer here. And I'm going to trim this down to 5 1/4 by 4. And I am selectively trimming, so because I don't want to again, mess too much with the balance of what I've got going on there. And so now that I've got that kind of down, I'm going to edge it with Twilight. It's my favorite thing to do. You see me do it a million times. Just love this color of blue. I don't know. Something about it. I think it's the only Versafine Clair that I have a re-inker for besides my black. And I go a little heavier in the corners, then just lightly around the edges, and being very careful on this edge not to get any on my moon. If I do, I do. It's fine, but I'd rather not. And definitely wipe that up. Now I'm going to do some finishing touches here. I'm going to grab my Q-tip. I'm going to make some little stars or stardust or whatever, just laying down dots of white with one side of the Q-tip, and then kind of just blending them in a little bit with the other side. And then I'll take my white Posca paint pen and just add little dabs of white in there. And I know I did an even number there, but it doesn't matter because they'll be partially covered with the sentiment once I decide how to do the sentiment. So I pick up my sentiment and I cannot find the transparency for it, so I have to kind of just look through it. And I'm just not happy with it going where I thought I wanted it to go originally. It's way off balance, just bugs me. So down here, I'm feeling better about it down here. So I'm going to put it down my stamping platform, and I'm going to tape down just here a piece of acetate so that I can check placement, make sure it's straight. And it's straight. What you didn't see are all the times I stamped it and it wasn't straight, because I just didn't want to waste your time with that. So if I'd have had that darn piece of printed acetate, I wouldn't have had this problem. But I am going to use my embossing buddy again and anti-static powder bag and rub it along the spot where I'm going to emboss. And then I'm going to stamp down twice. And I can see that it's all on there nice and neat. I didn't miss any spots. So I'm going to go back in with that same gold embossing powder. And I'm happy with that. So I'll go ahead and get stuff out of my way and go ahead and emboss that down as well. Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. So what I like to do then is get rid of the white core of the paper, and so I just rub along the edges with the just straight with the ink pad. And then I like to take a little piece of Kleenex or something and dab on it because it is very wet. And I'm going to be mounting that on a black card base. So I'm going to use the tape mounting method. And the reason why is because my bottle of glue is somewhere in this pile that I cannot find it. And I did spend a lot of time on the video looking for it, and I just cut all that out. I'm like, I'm not going to waste your guys' time looking for something that's obviously here and buried. So I'm just going to go ahead and lift the corners here. Fold them up, make little dog ears out of them, and I'm going to lift off these center pieces. And then I'm going to get that, just, you know, fairly even on my card as I can, press down and pull out the tape. Okay, now we just have a couple final touches and we'll be good to go. So what I want to do is I want to put some glitter around the moon, and I just need to decide on a color here. I don't think blue. I think I'm gonna go for gold here. Gold's gonna be the ticket. So I'm gonna get my mat out of the way because those things like to let glitter stick to them, and just put down a piece of regular copy paper so that I can catch any lost glitter. And looking for my glitter pen that's sitting right in front of me. And it's not a glitter pen, it's a little glue pen. Cool little thing. And just make sure that it's flowing, and then I'm just going to trace around the entire moon, going between the letters there. And I moved the paper. It's just easier for me to get it on here neatly if I move the paper instead of trying to draw around it with just the pen. There we go. Now let's get this glitter lid off without having a mess. Success. And dump the glitter on. Now, y'all, you don't have to put glitter on your card if you don't like it. It really looks cool, and I really like the kind of finishing touch it gives the moon. But you don't have to do it, or maybe you have a glitter pen that you could just trace around it. I don't trust myself with glitter pens on something they need to keep nice and neat. But here you go. I hope you like this little video here and my little witch. I appreciate you coming and visiting on my channel, and I'll show a still after this. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, and hit that notification bell. Thanks a lot for coming. Appreciate you. Have an awesome day.